Next one, and you alluded to this, German classical music.
German classical music, you mentioned Beethoven and contending with the universe. I think rigorous, definitely very emotional. Depends on the composer, though. Very emotional, very rigorous, beautiful, beautiful melodies. I don't know why. Like, I think.
Sorry, what do you mean by rigorous?
Rigorous.
In this case.
I think there's something in, this is sort of a piano thing. Like one difference between like classical music and other types of music is that, at least in classical music, in the traditional sort of repertoire or the conventional repertoire, we use the score all the time. And like, that's sort of the Bible of the thing. And like, it's like, what did the composer write and what does it mean?
Yeah.
And for German composers, there's a sense, at least I learned this through my whole education in music, is that the German composers wrote down on the page exactly what they want you to play. Now, there's still interpretation to be done, but you do not overlook the marking made by a German composer because it's very serious and it relates to like the musical meaning. And, if you have two notes and they should be played separately without, in a non-connected fashion, then you better do that. And if you disconnect them, well, you're not honoring if you connect them, then you're not honoring what the composer said. But I think there's a feeling in, and this, some people say this is totally incorrect, but there's a feeling with maybe composers, not that their markings aren't as precise, but there's this sense with German composers that it's very rigorous in that sense. That the markings really, really, really matter, and you shouldn't change them. I guess like we were talking about Russian music, I'm thinking of Rachmaninoff. And it's sort of a facile argument, but if you listen to Rachmaninoff's recordings of his own pieces and you follow along with the music, there's a lot of cases where he's not really following the exact markings that he wrote. You can justify it. You say, oh, well, he didn't mean that should be loud. He meant, the whole thing should be loud. And that's why he starts soft and he gets loud later or something like that. But it's a much less of a literal sense. You get the feeling Rachmaninoff, the pianist, is sort of improvising his own music. He's playing the notes that are written on the page, but is he following precisely exactly the articulation markings or the dynamic markings? I would say generally no, not necessarily. Not that he never follows them, but that there's a lot of cases where he's not really following them. It's the same thing for modification of speed, tempo, like there's this whole idea in classical music of rubato, like the idea that you don't actually have an absolutely steady tempo. You can slow down, you can speed up. And not all those things would be indicated in the music. So you have to kind of understand the style. And Rachmaninoff does a lot of that with his own music that's not indicated in the score.
It's very interesting. The Ben Zander video that I was watching, he actually spoke about this, about the tempo that Beethoven had put for one of his pieces. People actually don't follow his tempo because they think it's too fast. But he played it exactly the tempo Beethoven wanted because his interpretation was that he wanted it to be played at this tempo. Quite rigorous, very German.
Yeah.